up, family? Thank you so much for joining us on another yet exciting BTC podcast episode where it's all about meaningful conversation, creativity, and innovation. I'm your host. My name is KD Mulusiwa, KD aka Lizoti, aka Lizozo. My girl at the makeup day is always hyping me when I do this thing, so I'm having the time of my life right now watching her from the back. And we have a very special guest who's joining us today. And I think this has caused a lot of attention over the past 3 years now, especially in my country, Botswana. You know, we always see how our city is always so lit up during this particular season. We have Randall Lane, who is Chief Content Officer and Editor-in-Chief of Forbes magazine. And I think one of the reasons why we're gathered from many parts of the world right here in Gaborone, because it is the Forbes Africa Summit 30 Under 30 happening in Gab City. Thank you so much for joining us.
Katie, thank you for having me.
Mr. Randall Lane.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm a little tired because, you know, we brought 1,000 plus people to Botswana and to Gaborone, and we're having a great time. And listen, this is a group that can change the world and will change the world for the next 50 years. We have people from across, we have 47 countries represented, but of course, heavy from Africa. So Africa is here in Gabs, the world is here in Gabs, and we're having fun. And given that it's an under 30 crowd, they're seeing, you know, they're talking and networking, we're having panels, and then everyone's staying out late at night too. So it's like Gaborone is alive. The best place in Africa this week is Gaborone.
Absolutely. And it's been like your third year now coming to Botswana.
That's right.
Have you identified a Tswana cuisine that you like?
Well, the biltong here
Must be different.
But I love it because, you know, that's something I love listening. And, you know, President Masisi is always talking about Botswanan beef. And he brags about it to me, and he brags about it everywhere he goes. And so to actually get it in all its forms is always so good. So.
And what's your favorite thing about our country that makes it different or special from the others that you've been to?
It's two things. You know, and Botswana has the perfect balance. It's obviously a beautiful country naturally. It's a, you know, everyone here knows that you're blessed with one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And also, but also, of course, the people are so friendly and welcoming, and just the environment here is so open. And I think all our delegates have felt that, and we're hearing that from people from across the world, how they feel at home in Botswana, how they feel safe in Botswana, how they feel inspired in Botswana. So it's been I think that's the best word, it's been a very inspiring partnership.
Wow, I love it. So you're also one of the inventors of the Forbes 30 magazine.
The Forbes 30 list, yes.
Yes, and the list as well. What inspired that?
Well, I was an entrepreneur in my 20s, and that was before kind of the internet revolution took over, and that was which allowed younger entrepreneurs to become so successful. You know, when I was an entrepreneur, it was hard to be a young entrepreneur. I had no one to talk with. We were unusual. I would be in magazines and things like that just because we were like freaks. Like, look at the young kids doing the startup, the media startup, and it just struck me as we were having a moment. We started the list 12, 13 years ago. And you saw with the internet really taking full hold that all of a sudden, for the first time in human history, literally in human history, we have millions of years of human history where to be successful, you needed experience, wisdom, you needed all those you needed contacts and networks, and you needed resources that took years to build. And all of a sudden, it flipped where being young was no longer a disadvantage. In fact, it was an advantage because people who grew up with a cell phone in their hands and knew how to do the internet, how to use the internet from birth, didn't have to be taught it. It was just part of how they thought. Their brain was wired digitally, just like most of the people who are watching or listening to this podcast. It gave them an advantage. And that's why you see Facebook was started by somebody in his 20s, Mark Zuckerberg. Snapchat was started by somebody in his early 20s, Evan Spiegel. Instagram was started by Kevin Systrom in his 20s, and goes on and on and on. WhatsApp, and you know, almost every kind of digital innovation was by somebody who was young. And so this was a list that got ahead of that. And for the first time, people could see across the world who were the people who were changing the world and will change the world for the next 50 years. So this is a group here in Gaborone this week who will, they'll be changing the world for the next 50 years. Somewhere in Gaborone right now, there's a future president or prime minister of a country. We just don't know who it is.
Yeah.
It's from all the different countries, but these are all the young leaders. It might even be somebody, we might even have a future president of Botswana, in our presence.
Yeah.
But so we just don't know. And they're already, we have people who are either billionaires or near billionaires here visiting. But there are several who will be billionaires, many. You have many future billionaires, some maybe current billionaires, future government leaders and world leaders. I'm sure there's a scientist who will win a Nobel Prize. So they're all here getting that experience and building a relationship with Botswana. So it's very rewarding.
Is Forbes about money, or is it about your idea?
Forbes is about success. You can measure success in a lot of ways. Money is a easy way to measure success. It's not the only way.
Okay.
But it's a measure. If you create something that the world uses, money will generally follow. But it's not the be-all and end-all. And there are people here, again, who will be government, world leaders and political leaders and nonprofit leaders. But the Forbes brand stands for success. And whatever you do, that you can be in a position to change the world. So that's what we're trying to do here for the next few days.
Wow. And over the years, we've seen the Forbes list changing, evolving, transitioning, and now it's gotten to include African innovators and leaders and entrepreneurs and such. What's the state of the entrepreneurship landscape now in Africa?
Well, we have three actually editions of Forbes in Africa. We have Forbes Africa, and they're represented there here. And we have many, and they do the 30 under 30 list from across Africa. We have dozens and dozens of African Forbes 30 under 30 listers. We also have Forbes Afrique for French-speaking Africa, and we have Forbes Lusophone also. So all of Africa is represented in the Forbes universe, and they're all represented here this week. And what we've seen, what's so exciting, is anybody in the world who doesn't see that Africa is the growth region of the 21st century is missing out. And so we had people from around the world coming to see how do we help kickstart, but accelerate that growth, because the growth is already there and it's already real. But how does Africa become in the 21st century what Asia was in the 20th century, which was the area that was growing like crazy and driving a lot of growth around the world. And the Forbes 30 and 30 Africans doing it themselves. It's not about other people coming in and doing it. It's other people coming in and helping them do it. That's what's fun.
All right. And the Forbes Under 30 Africa Summit was launched for the first time in Botswana.
Yes.
This was like 3 years ago.
Yes.
How did that happen? Like, what were the conversations then?
I was introduced to President Masisi, and we wound up meeting at the World Economic Forum, and we really, found a good partnership where it was so easy to be impressed with his vision, and not just his vision, the country itself. This is a democracy. This is a country where the rule of law is the law of the land. So you can start a business here with confidence. Money follows democracy. Money follows around the world. Money follows the rule of law, and places that encourage entrepreneurship and encourage innovation. And President Masisi both, represented that for Botswana, and we had confidence also that he was a good steward, that we could bring people here with confidence, knowing that if people and when people start businesses here, they come here from around Africa and around the world and say, you know what, this is a good place where I could start a division of my company here, that we could hire people from here, that they could do it with confidence that this is a growth country. And so he invited me, the president invited me to come to Botswana, and I came, and I I was, went around the country. I was up in Kasane. I was here in Gabs. I met with, many of the stakeholders, and I left very confident. And so we followed it up with an agreement. And for the last 3 years, Gaborone has been the, African home of the 30 and the 30. It's been really nice partnership.
So is that like the agreement going forward?
Going forward, we're gonna, there's no formal agreement after this year, and we're gonna, we love it here, but we also understand if another country wants to take a shot. But we're, again, we're reflecting on 3 amazing years, and we'll see what the future will hold. What the future holds. There's a lot of interest around the continent. In bringing this around the continent, but we also feel very at home here. It's been very successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been like I mentioned, 3 years now. Have you seen any return on investment in terms of the lives of the entrepreneurs being improved? I think specifically Botswana entrepreneurs
Yes.
who've been a part of the Forbes listing, and
Yes.
those who are part of the summit as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great question, because part of our mission, I guess it's really a 3-pronged mission. If we talk about what how we want to strengthen Botswana, one is the media, in that right now, I mean, the Forbes platform is the biggest global business platform in the world, and everybody in the world is looking at what's going on here and going, Botswana, like, that's an entrepreneurial capital now. Like, why is Forbes there, and all this content, and all these people, and so the whole world through our platform, and other media is covering it too, because we're here, and that means other people. CNBC's been here all week, things like that. So the whole world is looking and saying, "Huh, I didn't know Botswana was a business capital," and that's obviously very powerful. Second is in bringing 1,000 people here who are all great entrepreneurs, and we have several examples, and I think some of them are even going to come on the show, of people who've then said, this is a good place to do business, and let's expand here. Let's expand our African operations here. But then, Katie, as you alluded to, the third and maybe the most important aspect of it is that we carve out in the delegate pool about 200 spots for Botswanans. And so what they get to do, these young Botswana entrepreneurs who normally maybe aren't as advanced that they would be if we were having an event in the U.S., that they, most of the people probably who come here, if you're a startup, we have probably the average big companies have raised like $10 million, and they're doing tens of millions in revenue. Some are doing less because they're in early stage. Others are doing a lot more than that. But even if the Botswanan entrepreneurs, some are, but most aren't at that level. Once you're in the delegate pool, you're all equals. Nobody's really looking and saying, "Oh, I have $85 million in revenue in London. What do you have?" It doesn't matter. It's everyone is just an equal. They're all the same age. They're all ambitious, and so now all these Botswana delegates have a global network of new friends and allies that they can tap for the next 50 years. I mean, because if you think about it, if you're 25, 28 years old, especially with life expectancies now, you'll be working in your 70s. So, and you'll be doing things cool in your 70s. You're not just, and so this is a 50-year partnerships that are happening right now.
And then have you guys maybe experienced whatever success stories, big milestones worth talking about with regards to the Africa Summit coming to Botswana ever since it came?
Yep.
And, do you guys have any success stories?
We're doing a survey after this one but anecdotally, we have it's just so inspiring to hear not just who has been coming back, but it's also how you position the country, because Botswana is a country that, of course, around the world is known for tourism and for diamonds, right?
Yep.
And now there's a third thing that Botswana could say, that it has a good startup ecosystem, or that it's a country that's welcome to innovation and growing businesses, and that will take many. That's why we did this, for several years. That doesn't happen overnight. You have to keep repeating that for that message to take hold. But I think that we've done a good job with our global platform of letting the world know that Botswana is open to new ideas, to new businesses, to growth, and I don't think that's a small thing. I think that's actually something that's very noble and very positive.
Very good indeed. Yeah, and it's life changing as well.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
we will see. The measure will be over the next years and decades even,
Yeah.
where lives where we will have altered lives here. Hopefully, really for the better. I mean, more
Yeah.
prosperity, more innovation, and the job. If you look at Africa and sub-Saharan Africa, and you got maybe 1.4 billion people on the continent. I think sub-Saharan Africa is like 1.2 billion. 70% are under 30.
Yeah. It's
Where are all these
young
jobs? Where are all these
people.
young people? Where are all the jobs going to come from? You can only have so many. Only many people can work for the government or for the big companies. It has to come from new companies, from startups.
Yeah.
That's where the jobs are going to come from. And so what we're doing is planting the seeds here for decades of growth. But we need to create hundreds of millions of jobs on the continent and hundreds of thousands of jobs here in Bots. And I think this event and this initiative is in furtherance of that cause.
Yeah. How does an African entrepreneur appeal globally to the global market?
I think I think several things. One, I mean, we had a panel yesterday talking about like the creative market, like Afrobeats. I think is important, not because it's that big an industry. It's not. Music's a small industry globally. Even you know the big Drake or Taylor Swift. It's not that big an industry in the world, but it's a message. I think that Afrobeats has been important because it sends a message that Africa is doing things that are cool and new with a new sound, not new here, but new to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
That there's stuff going on here, cool creative things at the highest level, and that as Africa kind of embraces that idea of the new global player that has its own flavor on industries that everyone thought were kind of mature. I think hundreds of millions of jobs or tens of millions of jobs certainly will be created off of that in all sorts of sectors. It's Africa needs to be a technology hub. Period. Everywhere needs to be a technology hub, and I think that idea that Africa can take advantage of the largest population of young people in the world. It's the most dynamic region in the world, continent in the world, because of the youthful population. To lean into that, to what's new and what's next, is very exciting.
So how do I then appeal to the global market? What do I need to do?
The beautiful thing about where we are now in the world and in history is that, listen, Africa has a free trade zone now, and products that are made in Africa no longer have to stay in Africa. And that's why I mentioned Afrobeats before, because the idea of innovation, exporting. So I think anything that is made in Africa has a chance to go anywhere now, and it's not just an African product. And the technology allows us to do that. The internet allows us to do that. We could sell things around the world from wherever we are. And if we have as products are developed here that are better than products around the world, and that's what innovation is, right? That's what disruption is. It's people coming up with things that maybe already exist but are better, a better way to do it, a new way to think about it. We'll see this be the African century.
What's an industry that you would say somebody should tap into if they're looking for opportunity and they're looking for a gap?
Three things even, several. And this is where Africa and Botswana has advantages. The idea of leapfrog technology, and for those who, I think probably everyone is familiar with the term, the idea that because Africa didn't get the same amount of investment that, let's say, North America or Europe did, that actually can be an advantage now, because it's very hard to get countries that have already built a whole infrastructure around like old energy, oil, and there's a lot of sun here, and the infrastructure is not as developed, which means that the new solar technology and renewable technology, the whole country can take advantage of that and be built on that. So green tech is an area where Africa can shine. We've been having talks on that all week, and we've been hearing about some amazing initiatives where Africa can leap ahead of everybody because they're not burdened with the old technologies that were very advanced 50 years ago, but now are actually can be a burden if you're trying to adopt something that's entirely new. So green tech and renewable energy is a huge area. AI is a huge area for everybody, and it's not just developing. That's something that takes. That's something that is already very far down the line. Let's say in Silicon Valley, but it's what we do with this technology. It's wide open right now, so people can take this kind of a lot of the tech and say, what are we going to do to then make it practical? So anybody that gets a degree in artificial intelligence or gets experience is going to have a job for the foreseeable future. If you're thinking about what should I study in school and there's an AI track, it's basically a guarantee of full employment for the next 20, 30 years, or maybe more. I mean, it's hard to predict past that, but it's going to be changing everything. And to be early on that is very, and then I think blockchain too, and that's something you also see. We have a lot of fintech companies here. Same thing, just like with green tech, that Africa can build because the U.S. and Europe have banking systems that are hundreds of years old that are well established. That we see new fintech companies that are doing banking in new and modern ways. A lot of them are already being hatched here in Africa. So.
And then what role does Forbes play in ensuring that challenges that African entrepreneurs experience, such as a lack of resources and such, does Forbes have some sort of assistance?
Sure. Well, besides having an entire 3 editions devoted to Africa based in Africa, so we tell the stories that then go across the world. One of the initiatives that we're very proud of here in Gabs this week is we brought, more than a dozen world-class venture capitalists, people who write checks into new companies to see what's going on here. So it's not just talk. And again, we don't want to get in the middle of the transaction. We're not trying to sit here and be an investment bank and get a cut of the deal. That's not our role. Our role is to tell the stories and convene the people and bring great people here so they meet other great people. And hopefully then that leads to, that's the ecosystem that creates investment and growth, is having the money meet the brains. And that's what we're doing this week, yes.
Yeah. What are some of the key themes or topics that you guys have explored in previous editions, and what is the theme for this year, for the Forbes Africa Summit this year?
The whole, it's about reinvention, and that's the big thread this year, and the idea of taking things that are old and making them new, and that's as good a formula for success that's throughout human history. There are only, we went from riding on horses to riding in cars to flying in the air. It's taking those basic human needs and creating things that are new and great and sustainable. And that was what we spent. We spent the last 2 days talking about that, and especially deep dive yesterday. Today, from here I will go. We're having what we call Service Day. Now the first day here, the night here, we had the Pan African Welcome Celebration where we had a concert and we had Omar Lay and we brought in Nick Cannon from the U.S.
It was electrifying.
It was.
Yeah.
And we had 4,000 people. But what was important to us is we invited anybody from Botswana who wanted to go could register for a free ticket. So that was something we want to make sure that everybody who wants to be part of this could be part of it.
Yeah.
And then yesterday was really good conversations and high level talks. Today is a day of giving back, where we have people at sites across Gabs to work with Botswanan nonprofits or startup companies or government initiatives to accelerate and to help and to use all the brain power and use all the connections here and all the resources to help. So it's a good day of giving back. Then tomorrow is a day of exploration. We have people who are going to the Delta. We have people that are going to the Makalodi Lodge to see, the beautiful nature here in the region. We have people who are going to see the diamond industry. So if you think about it, it's about sharing on the first day. It's about yesterday was the biggest substantive day. Today is about giving back, and then tomorrow is seeing the whole country. So that hopefully when people leave here, the many hundreds who've come, they will leave with not just a knowledge of Botswana, but a relationship with Botswana. And if you think about it, to invite everybody out, to really immerse yourself in deep thoughts and ideas, to give back and then to see, it's kind of a lot of the senses in one, and people, we've seen over the past few years, people leave in love with the country. And what will that do over the next few decades? Well, we won't be able to ever fully measure that, but we know it's going to be big.
Yeah. And we hope it's going to be big too. Well, thank you so much, Randall
Yeah.
Lane, and thank you for sitting shop here in Botswana.
BTC is beautiful. This is a beautiful building. And congrats on the podcast. It's really good.
So much. Randall Lane, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching our episode today. Be sure to subscribe, comment, like, and share this with your family and friends. Let them know that we are on. From myself, Katie Molusiaba, it's been so great. See you on the next one. Cheers.